is absolutely nothing in the barn. I personally destroyed every last bit of it.
You're joking. You're bluffing.
Am I?
You wouldn't. I mean, no one. You couldn't. Physically, I mean, it's billions.
Not that many pieces to the billion.
No one in their right mind would do.
You think no thought went into it?
Thomas, I mean...
It's mine, isn't it? It was, I mean.
No, but...
Yes?
I don't believe you.
Think of it as a work of art. I destroyed it all. That's what Michael Landy did, wasn't it? Destroyed all his possessions, and that was a work of art.
No, you're not an artist.
So that's the difference. If an artist does something, it's art. If someone who's not an artist does the same thing, it's not. Art, not art.
No, this is ridiculous. You have not destroyed it at all.
Destroyed it all?
No, you haven't destroyed it at all.
No, well, clearly not.
Besides this, Michael Landy destroyed everything he owned. You only claim to have destroyed everything in the barn.
I'm a minimalist.
This isn't funny. I don't believe you. It's ridiculous. Just because you bought something doesn't give you the right to destroy it.
Well, if I were a Renaissance prince, I wouldn't have given it a second thought. Got someone else in. The Michelangelo ceiling's looking a bit tired. Let's have something fresh.
Oh, how fucking hard.
Alex, I swear on... Oh, now what should it be?
What?
What should I swear on? It's hardly a stack of Bibles for either of us.
I swear as much as you like. I won't believe a word you're saying.
Your prerogative.
For God's sake. Tell me that's not true.
Alex, believe me. The only thing that remains of the Thomas and Joanna Meade collection is what you see in front of you. When Joanna left, I had the barn locked. I couldn't bear to think about all that stuff, let alone look at it. Of course, the staff would go into the working end, all the stuff for the estate, but the secured end was firmly locked behind its big steel walls. After a while, to be honest, I didn't think about it, except when I thought about you and her and you. I didn't realise not the depth of my feelings. That's a cliche. Well, perhaps that's why it's a cliche. I felt numb, made myself feel numb. I couldn't even feel angry at what had been going on under my nose, under my roof. I suppose maybe I've been capable of something similar in business dealings. People would say that I do, and people have written that I do. I suppose I should have realised that Joanna wasn't happy enough. It was, God, it must have been at least 2 years after Billy left before I went out there. And I just wandered round. It's that thing, you know, something's happened and you've come to terms with it and you think you're getting over it. And I wanted to show myself that it was a done deal, over, get on with the next thing. So late one afternoon in the early spring, it was still light outside. I went out and locked the door in the big steel wall. I threw the lights on. I think I expected the lights to be harsh and bright, but I'd forgotten you'd got all that other soft lighting in. And it was all still there, exactly as the day you left. Some of it's still crated up, of course, but enough out there in those arrangements that you and Joanna had done, like a path through a garden, really. And I stood there, and I just stared the first time. And then I turned the lights out again and went out, locked up, and I got halfway back to the house and turned around and went back again. I think the soft lighting, it's bizarre, isn't it? But the soft lighting, when I'd somehow expected it to be harsh and bright and dead. I spent quite a while there that night. I remember Celia was watching it at this window as I came back, one of the few times when she clearly didn't know what to say because she said nothing. And every so often, I would go over and look, take things out of cases, look at them, rarely put them back when I think about it, just left them where they were. I suppose it was self-indulgence. It's something I've never really done. And then I remember thinking that one evening, and thinking that I must lock it all up and have nothing more to do with it. But I didn't. And of course, eventually, people began subtly referring to the collection and what I was doing with it and what was happening with it. But of course, was always sort of half-hearted because they didn't want to look tasteless, referring to what had caused the breakup of my marriage. But you could see, well, I suppose, some of them, Michael Franks. Do you know Michael Franks? No, it doesn't matter. Michael Franks. Anyway, every so often, I'd go over and look at it all and feel much the same blankness. The consolation of art. Except that one day, I was looking at that thing. Can't even remember who did the bloody thing, but it was this sort of animal thing made of a chair and leather cushions. Do you remember? Very sharp studs on it, particularly if you thought of sitting down. You know? Yeah. You called it a witty deconstruction of the extreme machismo of the wild one or some such. And somehow, without a thought, I kicked it. It was sudden and spontaneous, and I kicked it hard. I don't think I didn't expect, well, I expected it to go flying, I suppose, but instead, I kicked the stuffing out of it. Literally, the manufacture was crap. I had all this stuff all over my shoe, felty stuff, and just torn up newspaper. And then suddenly, I remembered how much had been forked out for it. And I just thought, fuck me. And I laid into it, and I kicked it, and I kicked it, and it was all over everywhere. You'd said I should get it because it was a witty deconstruction of the macho image. Wild One, was it called? And then I thought, oh, shit, what am I doing? But I started laughing again. I remember thinking, I've deconstructed it. I might even have actually shouted it out and laughing hysterically. And part of me was saying, well, it's yours, you can do what you like with it. And another part of me was saying, oh, this is art. This is expensive art. This is very expensive art. And I looked round the barn and I thought, enough. And that was when I realised, oh, this was long before the diagnosis, I didn't want any of it anymore. I was just going to throw it away. But of course I couldn't just throw it away, because if I threw it away, it would still be somewhere. Celia, bless her, she's worried about me spending time out in the barn, because I wouldn't let anyone out there with me, of course. I mean, let's face it, with the value of all that stuff, some of them would have wanted to save it to sell it. And when everyone says they love it as art, but then they think about what they could do with what they could get for it, you can see it in the faces. So I'd just go out of an evening, lock myself in, and then, when I had got just enough to do it, I'd take it out and put it through the wood chipper.
No.
I thought the estate staff might notice at first, but it didn't happen. Perhaps they're that detached from their work, or the reverse. Occasionally in the winter, I'd put some wood in the wood stove that had been installed for Billy Vandergrant. Celia did ask me if I wanted some more logs out there, but I said no, and she said nothing. Wonderfully discreet, Celia. And I realised it was all a bit helpless, of course. Every time I destroyed one piece of art, I knew I was just making that person's work that little bit more valuable, adding to the rarity value. So wasn't that thoughtful of me? Thinking of all those poor artists and how I was putting their prices up. And slowly, I did realise that the only person who was going to suffer from this was you. I promise you, it hadn't crossed my mind that the destruction of the entire collection you had made would affect your reputation, Alex. The only thought that was in my mind was that it was mine and I could do what I wanted with it. It was a commodity that I had bought, mine. Why have you been recording me?
What do you mean? This will be an insurance nightmare.
Insurance stopped 3 years ago. How can you insure something that has no value? Well, apart from helping little things grow around the estate.
It was worth billions. Several billions.
Who to? Anyway, you didn't answer my question. Oh, you got your phone out. I thought perhaps you were checking for a text from Robert, but then I realised you were recording me.
Don't like a bit of your own medicine. Don't mind spying on me, but you can't take it yourself.
Please yourself.
You realise I've got a recording of this whole insane...
And?
People are going to...
What?
I've got the whole story, Thomas. The story of how Thomas Shepherd, collection of major contemporary art. You won't be able to deny it. If I release this, I can make this look really bad for you.
How will it look for you?
No, I can handle that. When people read...
No, let me stop you there. They probably are.
What?
They probably are. Reading.
What? Reading what?
They probably are reading about it now. All over the world. I mean, not a lot of people. Most people aren't interested in art enough, though they'll be more interested in the money side, of course. Actually, not in China much at this time. Well, I don't know, though. Late evening, maybe. And possibly not so much in the States, either. Look, you can check the New York Times on your phone as you have it out. Do you have their app?
I haven't got the vaguest idea what the hell you're talking about.
I've just realised that I didn't apologise for keeping you waiting when you first got here. You jumped so high when I interrupted your phone call to Joanna that I completely forgot my manners. Do forgive me. I had a little business to do. But I wanted to make absolutely sure you were here before I did it. Mind you, I did make sure that Celia offered you coffee or a drink. She did offer you...
Oh, fuck this. What the hell are you talking about? You've lost it, Thomas. You've really...
No, I've not lost it, really. It was just that I had 3 emails to send, personally, as in click send. And I had to wait till I was sure you were here to do it.
Why? Why, pray, did you have to wait until I was here till you started sending emails?
Well, I suppose I was being a little overcautious, but I thought it through and I felt that there might be an error in the timing. I mean, if you came and I told you everything I've told you, and if you got angry and mean and decided to tell the world...
I will fucking tell the world.
Yes, you might misrepresent my motivation. You see, I really wouldn't want the world to think I destroyed all this good stuff just because you stole my wife.
No, I didn't steal your wife. I liberated your wife.
Thanks for the clarification. Anyhow, regardless, I kept thinking that your view of my action might somehow be open to misinterpretation, which is why, as soon as you arrived, I sent emails to Sheridan and Allen and Howard.
You're a sick man.
All the world knows that.
No, I didn't mean it like that.
That's true, nonetheless. Do I take it you don't care about Sheridan and Allen and Howard? I thought you might have guessed, actually. When you mentioned Alan Bennett earlier, I thought perhaps you said some inkling, because his name is Alan. Alan George.
I haven't the foggiest what you're...
Well, you've read him. You said you'd read him.
Read who?
Well, what was it? Some North of England whinger, blah, blah, blah. George Orwell, Alan Bennett.
No, you're raving. I'm leaving.
No, Alex. You can't leave. You can't afford to. But you will be able to afford to if you stay just for a bit. I'm sorry to put it like that. You're free to go.
I'm not being dismissed.
No, of course not. Only meant you're free to go at any time. I'm probably talking in riddles. I thought you'd understand. I really did think perhaps you guessed.
Guess what?
About Clond. My heart did whatever hearts do when you said his name. Well, not his name, of course, but the first name.
I'm completely lost.
Clond's real name is Alan George.
You know it?
Yes, and you were completely right. As you can tell from his name, he's a boy. Well, young man, 28.
You know him?
You're becoming repetitious. Yes?
You're somehow...
Yes, come along, you're getting there.
You know that blogger? You know that fucking blogger? How do you come to...
I set him up.
What?
I set him up. I found him. Well, I had someone find him, and we funded him. Well, I funded him. Someone in the foundation found him. Found all 3 of them.
Clond and Art Monkey and Wei Lu. Why? Why, Thomas?
I could lie and say there wasn't an element of spite to it, but there was. I was surprised that no one's ever looked that far into them. People are surprisingly uncurious about bloggers who say what they want to hear, or perhaps who say things that other people aren't saying. Young people love to read people who aren't pundits on TV. Now, you were wrong about Art Monkey. I don't think Sheridan will be pleased at being thought a man. She's very attractive. Well, that's probably why she's always kept to the cartoon graphic. And Howard? though he does live in China, is not Chinese. There were two reasons for choosing him. He knows and respects the Chinese, and he can gently get away with stuff that the Chinese authorities wouldn't necessarily appreciate.
I'll expose this whole fucking mess.
A bit too late by now, I would think. They'll all have posted while we've been having our little chat. Hey. Well, I thought Sheridan might have tweeted that guess this story is too much for 140 characters, even for her. There's nothing you could say that my 3 pet monkeys, as you put it, haven't already said loud and clear. You should have been more careful with your world, Alex. Even art belongs to the young before we realise it.
You said I
could afford things if you stayed.
Is this about what you said you'd bought?
What I said I'd bought? Oh, what I said I'd bought. No, it isn't, actually. There's something I want to gift to you and Joanne. But you're right, I must tell you about what I bought. Thanks for reminding me. I'd completely forgotten about it, and I'd have hated it if you'd left without me telling you. I think my mind isn't... Well, I know my mind isn't what it was.
I think you're doing all right.
Oh, thank you.
So...
Alex, you'll never guess what I've bought. So I'll tell you. I have bought, and all on my own initiative, the most expensive piece of art the world has ever known. Well, to clarify, in terms of contemporary currency, that is. I don't suppose it compares with the cost of the pyramids, but it's a bit difficult to price them anyhow, what with all that free labour.
It wasn't free labour, it was slave labour.
No free labour. There's a modern view that people did it because they wanted to, a bit like what they used to call national service. I watched a TV programme about it one evening, an early evening programme.
So you bought the most expensive piece of art the world has ever known?
Yes. Isn't that exciting? Don't you find it exciting?
Well, it depends what it is.
Probably not. The interesting thing about it is that it's unquestionably the most expensive piece of art in the world. Exactly 5 million more than the top price paid for...
Pounds or dollars?
Since you ask, the artists wanted dollars. Well, strictly speaking, of course, the artist's agent.
The artist?
No, the agent.
So why does no one know about this? Why haven't your pet monkeys written about it?
That's the point.
Whose work is it?
Unfortunately, I can't tell you that. But I think you would approve. I'm not absolutely certain, but I think you would actually approve. Of course, my own taste is involved, and as you've said, that may tend towards the sentimental. But you've always spoken well of this artist's work.
For Christ's sake, why can't you tell me who it is? Stop playing games.
Impossible, you see. That's the whole point. I had the idea to commission it, the most expensive piece of art in the world, but my idea, perhaps almost my concept, if you like, was such that it would be mine and mine alone.
Go on.
So I approached the agent of this creative entity. Please note that I'm not giving away the gender or the number of people. I mean, it could be Gilbert and George or Jake and Chapman, except that it's neither. And I set out my proposition. I got Alice involved as well. It needed to be a cast iron contract, and she's, you know...
Best. Go on.
Well, it's odd getting a lawyer to do a gagging clause on themselves. Herself.
This is tedious.
No, I'll get to the point. I want you to know. So I went to blah, blah, blah's agent, and I said, I want to commission the most expensive piece of art in the world from blah, blah, blah.
Don't tell me who. I don't want to know.
No, of course you don't.
And what is this piece of work?
Yeah. I got this artist or artiste or collective of artists to come up with an idea, to use their considerable imagination, to come up with an idea for a work of art, a description, something that they thought would appeal to me.
And
what?
And what was it?
Oh, no, you don't understand. This is a private piece of art, private between me and blah, blah, blah. And I could tell you that it's an astounding work, or I could tell you that perhaps I'm a little disappointed in it, but that's really irrelevant, isn't it? In fact, I was really surprised when I was told the concept. Well, I have to talk about it carefully because the whole point is not to give anything away. But when I heard the idea, I was hugely pleased that my instincts had been right. You'd have been proud of me.
So this is someone I'd approve of?
Not necessarily. I just thought you'd be pleased that I'd made what you would see as a discerning choice. Not that, as I say, that it would matter. The whole point is that this is the most expensive piece of art ever conceived and will remain so for years, even if no one knows. There's an ongoing arrangement to increase the payment to blah, 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 anytime that another artwork approaches the price I've paid. The agent, needless to say, is over the moon, except, of course, the agent is also held by the gag clause and can't actually talk about it to a soul, or the whole deal is off. Oh. Oh, what the hell. I'll give away a tiny bit of information to you. The agent is a man.
I'm lost for words.
Thank you.
This is madness.
Possibly. But I shall die knowing that I owned the most expensive piece of art in the world.
I need to go.
No, but I have a work of art to give you. Well, to Joanna.
Is this some other concept?
Of course not. You can guess what it is.
No, I'm beyond that.
No, you're not. Well, it's this, of course. The only other work of art I possess.
You're joking. You're joking.
Oh, straight up. I want Joanna to have this. I've made the arrangements for it to be gifted.
Yes? No strings.
Oh, I wanted to have it. She always loved blue acting.
She'll be...
Yes?
She'll be over the moon.
And I'm sure you can use it financially.
Of course. What,
Yes?
After all this, what brought about...
A change of heart?
Yes.
Well, it didn't really. You see, there's something about this that I want you to know, but I don't want Joanna to know. I know you too love this painting. Those flecks of white which have fallen almost like a constellation of stars, almost as if accidental. That, what is it? That huge arc of yellow thrown up, almost like throwing dice with absolute certainty of getting snake eyes. The incredible spontaneity. Except that, you guessed, it's a forgery.
Bollocks. I personally checked the provenance.
Blue acting, yes you did, I remember.
So...
Look at this. Those flecks of white, almost as though they have fallen like... his technique was incredible. What that man couldn't achieve with paint.
Yeah.
No. Not who you think. Billy Vandergrant. What that man couldn't achieve with paint.
Really?
Oh, it's all right, Alex. Your secret will be safe with me.
What fucking secret?
The secret that this is a copy. Brilliant copy. Perfect in every detail. On board that could be checked for its exact age, using only materials that would have been available at the time. Besides which, if you, one of the greatest experts in the field, say it's the original of which you personally checked the provenance, if you say it's blue action, and if I hadn't told you, you wouldn't be any the wiser.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it for a moment.
Fine, don't. I didn't intend for it to end up like this. I got Billy in because I hated the way he was treated and because I reckoned he was the man to do the job. The care he used on his own canvases would be enough to recreate Blue Actian completely. There would be a swap, and we'd get you in somehow and show you up. But Billy managed to kill himself 2 days after he'd finished it. All that time out in the barn, copying this. No wonder it drove him to drink.
No, I refuse to believe it.
Fine. The painting's Joanna's to do with as she will. Will you tell her that I say it's a forgery?
I won't believe it is.
No problem then. Give this to Joanna. With my love.
So does the image then lie in the art of the concept? Or is the concept the image of the art? As Mikel Brown might perhaps have put it, so many pixels, so little time. Which brings us finally to my friend Thomas Meade himself. As Voltaire wrote, it is easier to judge the mind of a man by his questions rather than his answers. When I first met Tom, I remember being frankly baffled by his seeming inability to comprehend some of the most simple principles of art as we know it. But never underestimate the intelligence of a billionaire. The mind that had brought him from a very ordinary background wasn't just a mind of exceptional intelligence, it was also a mind of exceptional imagination. It perhaps takes the courage of a billionaire to do what Tom did. Most of us face a work of art that has been priced in millions with awe. When you're used to working in the upper stratosphere of finance, of pricing, as Tom was, you see things with the clarity of the stratosphere. Tom was in an almost unique position to see that the increasingly absurd financial value of some works of art made it actually impossible for us to see them, perhaps even to appreciate them at all. I remember him remarking that there were no curatorial notes on Michelangelo's David, a work that beyond price had also gone beyond value. We don't need to think about it as a commodity, we can appreciate it as a very great work of art that it is. I was, I admit, shocked when Tom revealed to the world, through the network of young bloggers, that he had established to promote what one might almost call his new orthodoxy on art, that he had personally destroyed every piece in the collection of world-quality major works that he had accrued. My first reaction, and I'm all too ready to admit this, was horror. Of course, I had personal reasons to admire the collection, having been on board as curator from the beginning, but there's that word again, personal, personally destroyed, personal reasons. And once the initial shock had faded, I realized that what more personal interaction can anyone have with a work of art than to destroy it completely and utterly. Much 20th century art worked on the deconstruction of the past. Tom's actions took that one step further, the destruction of the very present. Tom knew that the concept of the art world would live on, as certainly as the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the Colossus of Rhodes, and the statue of Zeus at Olympia. Not just in fragments of descriptions from the past, but in a library of digital images from original catalogues, which have now been made fully accessible from the Foundation's website. And while we're talking of things digital, you will have all seen the Art Monkey's brilliantly witty blog taking down the latest thing in the art market. She channeled Billy Vandergrant to demolish that latest craze, the non-fungible token, as we're told to call it. As her Billy said, an NFT is just hype with lots of expensive lipstick. A blockchain-locked computer file made by digital artist Beeple, sold at an auction for $69 million. A tweet from Jack Dorsey sold for nearly $3 million. These things defy parody, and Thomas Meade, to say nothing of the much earthier Billy Vandergrant, would have laughed himself senseless at the very notion. But like all smart billionaires, Thomas would have been the first to understand the serious point underlying the hype and the NFT lipstick, namely the point about how art creates and holds value. Before I go on to that, in case you were wondering, Art Monkey's blog also did a job on 3D printing of artwork, so I can assure you that the blue Actian you see here is 3D free and will remain so. Respecting Tom's wishes as he explained them to me is why, of course, though I was honoured to be asked to write a comprehensive introduction to the catalogue being launched this afternoon, there are no notes, mine or anyone else's, not even the artists, on the works themselves. On the website, they are free to be enjoyed by anyone in the world, and, as we've already heard, the rights to all the works for which the artists were all very well paid, very respectably paid at point of sale, remain with the collection, but with no restrictions whatsoever on their use, come rain, shine, hell or high water. Lady Meade, Lydia, and the whole board of the Foundation have decided that continuous curation is the way forward for us. This will surround the collection's unique digital images with living interpretation, binding them together as they never could be before. We're not throwing images into the ether, far from it. Continuous curation, which I'm honoured to say the board has entrusted me to lead, will give the Meade collection an enduring coherence and multi-layered, nuanced interpretation which it never had as separate physical works. As we face the future, we can say with certainty that the whole of the collection is now greater than the sum of the original parts. Thomas would be the first to appreciate that. Although the physical artworks are no more, they live on and have acquired added value through curation and interpretation. The Meade Foundation, therefore, is proud to reject shackling its collection. We want no part of a blockchain straitjacket of crypto art, and you may quote me on that. This is not to say that the Foundation is merely retrospective. Tom's 3 pet monkeys, as I perhaps impertinently like to refer to them, will continue to host some of the best young critical writing on the contemporary scene from around the world. I'm delighted to say that Sheridan Leschaise, now happily revealed as the original art monkey, will be joining us here in London. After we met in Iowa, I persuaded her that someone as brilliant, brilliantly perceptive and freshly attractive as she undoubtedly is, would be a major asset to the Foundation itself, particularly because it is the young we must turn to keep the continuation of Thomas's masterstroke, besting and at the same time showing up many collectors for whom acquiring art is for one-upmanship rather than treasuring the works themselves. The brilliant idea that art is personal, that it is the work of one person appreciated by one other. That concept put dazzlingly into the spotlight with what might otherwise be seen as an absurd and even obscene amount of money, placing the idea forever out of reach. Because Thomas knew that the finance has no place in the world of art unless it is paying artists themselves for their unique vision. I know in passing that Thomas would have been so proud that his daughter Lydia is one of the first of the Meade Foundation fellowship holders that have been announced this afternoon. Finally, of course, we come to Blue Actaeon, Billy Vandergrant's brilliant, perfect recreation of a painting by... Well, of course, the astonishing thing is that name, once a synonym for the avant-garde, is now merely the person who made the original that was copied by Billy Vandergrant, a tragic figure whose genius only Thomas Meade recognised, even though Tom's interventions on Billy's behalf came so sadly too late. How amazed Billy Vandergrant would be now at the popular recognition he enjoys, like Vermeer and Van Gogh before him. Who would have thought a handful of years ago that Vandergrant would be high on the list of most popular artists in the country in a recent National Gallery poll, way up there with Constable and Banksy? That comic masterpiece, The Shining Snug Bar, full of such so recognisable people in painful situations, now available and so very loved on all sorts of reproductions, as you can tell even from walking through gallery gift shops throughout the land. And so I can now announce that Lady Meade has graciously decided that what now seems to be known as Billy Vandergrant's Blue Actaeon is to be gifted, now and for all time, to the nation. A tribute not only to the exceptional craftsmanship of one of the country's most popular artists, but also to the vision, a vision perhaps only fully focused in the light of death, of my great friend, the late Sir Thomas Meade. I hope that now you'll join me in the reception room to raise a glass of something bubbly from the Meade cellars. I know nothing, and in this I speak for Lady Meade too, would give Thomas greater pleasure. Thank you all so much for coming this afternoon and sharing in the Foundation's bold new beginning.